Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have stories dealing with, once again, canine cryptid encounters, and a UFO that was the size of 2 football fields. Both stories are very startling, and we're going to get into them with this article right here. Mountain Run Road Werewolf, Bizarre Cryptid Canine Encounters in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania, and read exactly what was witnessed there. In July 2015, a driver near Penfield, Pennsylvania came face to face with a massive snouted humanoid crouched on Mountain Run Road, its glowing eyes fixed on him as it fed on roadkill. The chilling sight, coupled with reports of an elk found with a cleanly slit throat and a similar creature seen in nearby state game lands, has left locals questioning whether a canine-like cryptid is stalking Clearfield County. That is a good start to this article, folks. Let's read the whole thing now. Hello, I saw a werewolf. I live in a small town called Penfield in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. This encounter occurred in late July 2015. I was driving home from work on Boy Scout Road in Penfield. I usually stick to the main roads when moving home, but sometimes take back roads to take in the scenery. As I was coming around a bend, I saw a large brownish tan creature crouching on the side of the road. I slowed down to get a better look, and that's when it turned its head towards my vehicle. It had a large head, a yellowish glow to its eyes, and a long nose. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It was eating roadkill, I think a deer. At this point, I slammed my foot into the gas pedal and didn't let off the gas until I reached my home. I then jumped out of my car and ran into my house and locked my doors. I grabbed my rifle from the closet and loaded it. Then I went into my basement and retrieved a silver letter opener that I had received after my grandfather passed away. I haven't seen anything since. However, I would like to add that about a month before this, I was at the local Minute Mart to get a gas. A game commission officer pulled up to the next pump. Attached to his truck was a trailer, and in that trailer was an elk. Many elk have radio collars, and when one dies, it's the game commission's responsibility to determine the cause of death and collect samples. I asked the man what had happened to it. It was a young elk, maybe 2 to 3 years at most. It looked fine to me, except for the fact that its throat was slit. He told me he had no clue, and that when they found it, the collar it had been wearing was about 10 feet away. He said at first they thought it was a bear, as it's the only animal around here large enough to take down a bull elk. But there was no evidence indicating it was a bear. Plus, he told me the cut on its throat was too clean. After that conversation, I didn't think too much of it until I saw that thing that night. I'm a very fact-based person, and I don't hold any personal beliefs regarding supernatural things, but since that night, I don't know what to think anymore. The reason I'm writing to you is that I saw you wrote about a man on State Game Lands 331 who saw a similar creature back in November. I lived in this town my whole life and spent more time in the woods than anywhere else. I've seen all the animals around here, and I can tell you this thing was not natural. Jay. At least that's what you think, Jay. But either way, folks, we have a note here to read as well. I contacted the witness immediately, but he was unable to provide any further information. However, the entity was determined to be bipedal since it crouched on 2 legs. I got the impression that he was deeply shaken by the sighting and seriously contemplated whether to report it. He stated that the sighting took place on Boy Scout Road, although I believe that this road is actually named Mountain Run Road and runs by Camp Mountain Run, a Boy Scout and campground lawn. The article goes on. I look forward to receiving further details soon, and there was an update. The location of the sighting was indeed Mountain Run Road at Finley Hollow, according to the witness. And there's even more. A previous sighting is detailed below. On Friday, November 7th, I received information from Birch Witotsky regarding a cryptid sighting report he had just obtained. The witness wishes to remain anonymous. Presently stated that he was on the north edge of the State Game Lands 331, Clearfield County, Pennsylvania, just south of Penfield, between 10 and 11 a.m. on, November 7th, 2014. He was walking his 2 Weremariner dogs when an unknown bipedal creature emerged from the bush. Descriptions: 8 feet to 10 feet tall, weight unknown, large stride, short hair, dark colored, most likely brown, but very dark. Thought that may be a Bigfoot, but had a prominent snout like a canine. The witness said it took all his strength to hold on to the dogs. The creature never reacted to the dogs barking, stared straight ahead, and continued to walk quickly into the forest. The witness found this illustration stated that it closely resembles the creature. So is this animal or entity still there, folks? We don't know, but it certainly is mind-blowing. But folks, let's move on to the next article now. It was the size of 2 football fields. Apple Creek, Ohio, UFO stuns witnesses. And then we can talk about this story, folks, plus the article we just read through. So let's get into it now and hear exactly what was witnessed in Apple Creek, Ohio, and how it basically affected those there, folks. Because from the name alone for this article, folks, it sounds truly life-changing. On a July night in 1976, a mother and son in Apple Creek, Ohio encountered an enormous silent craft hovering near Blossom Road, its pulsating colored lights stretching across the sky like a floating stadium. Moments later, the disc shot upward, shrinking into a glowing red ball that shadowed their car until vanishing into the night, leaving them shaken and forever convinced that they'd seen something otherworldly. Now, the witnesses include a sketch of this object that they saw, folks, and while the sketch is a little underwhelming, I'm sure the real thing was truly out of this world. So, let's hear their full story now and read exactly what they basically saw that shadowed them all the way until it disappeared. So, let's hear the account now. Apple Creek, Ohio, July 14th, 1976. It was the night of my guitar lessons. I was 14 years old, and my mom and I left around 9:30 p.m. She said we would take the back way home, so we headed from Main Street to High Street and then north to Melbourne Road. We found ourselves right behind the state institution at Blossom Road when we saw it, a massive object as wide as 2 football fields hovering over the road. The lights on the craft pulsed from left to right in a large rectangular shape, with 2 smaller rectangles at each side, displaying colors of white, red, yellow, and blue in a repeating pattern. The craft had a disc shape, rounded at the top and bottom, tapering slightly toward the lower area. Mom pulled into a turnaround on Blossom, and we stopped to watch this thing. I opened the window, and we noticed it was completely silent. Even though we were less than a quarter of a mile away, it was enormous. Mom asked again what we should do, and I said, we're not going under it. Let's go back to Apple Creek and head up Route 44. So she did. As soon as we started turning out of Blossom and back onto Melbourne, the craft shot straight up into the sky, transforming into a small red ball. You heard me right, a tiny red ball. It remained in the air until we reached Route 44, directly across from it. It seemed to move with us as we traveled north until we got home. Once we arrived, the small red ball zipped away to the northeast in a flash, disappearing. I firmly believe that they are out there. We reported what we saw to the sheriff, but they just laughed and suggested we had probably seen a combine or a tractor. That was the end of it. That's my close encounter, and I'm sticking to it. To this day, if you ask my mom about it, she'll start shaking and say, I don't know what the hell it was, but it was there. Thank you for believing D. Very interesting, folks. What was with these 2 stories? Were they real or not? I mean, with the UFO here, folks, it really feels a little off. I mean, I've heard about other stories in which UFOs can basically shrink, or basically, maybe, in this case, folks, this UFO took off, flew so far into the sky while basically glowing a big red color that these people thought it shrunk, but what they were actually seeing was this UFO so far into the air that to them it looked small. But that's me just spitballing ideas, folks, because I really have no idea. Either way, truly phenomenal. And what about the Dogman account, folks? Are these entities out there? And like we've talked about before, folks, is it possible that these Dogman encounters are of alien beings as well? For all we know, folks, this story with this UFO that shrunk into a small red ball was actually piloted by these dogmen, for all we know, folks. But that still remains up to debate what these entities and these objects are. What are they? Who controls them? And what do they want with us, perhaps? We don't know. But certainly, folks, I have to say from these stories, I think that they were probably truly life-changing. But folks, we're now at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications. And please, share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video. So be sure to come back again then, folks. Until then, folks, I'll see you all again soon.